The United States, a nation built on immigration, finds itself grappling with a deeply divisive issue: the recent shutdown of its southern border with Mexico. On January 21, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order effectively sealing the border to asylum seekers, igniting a firestorm of controversy and uncertainty. This unprecedented move has thrown the lives of thousands into disarray, sparked legal battles, and strained diplomatic relations. While the Biden era saw increased restrictions on asylum eligibility, it maintained a semblance of legal pathways, particularly through the CBP-1 app. Trump's executive order dismantles this system entirely, leaving countless migrants stranded and desperate. The images emerging from border towns paint a bleak picture: families huddled in makeshift camps, their hopes dwindling with each passing day. Aid organizations struggle to meet the needs of the swelling crowds, while local resources are stretched thin. It reflects a nation wrestling with its identity, torn between its history as a beacon of hope for immigrants and the rising tide of nativism. As legal challenges mount and political rhetoric intensifies, the nation stands at a crossroads, facing a question that cuts to its very core. What does it mean to be American in the 21st century? The recent border shutdown represents a dramatic escalation of President Trump's hardline immigration stance. While the Biden administration faced criticism for its own handling of border security, particularly its reliance on Title 42 expulsions, it maintained a veneer of legal processes for asylum seekers. The Trump administration's executive order rips away this facade, effectively slamming the door shut on those seeking refuge within U.S. borders. This abrupt policy shift has left immigration advocates reeling as it effectively dismantles the existing asylum system and leaves no clear path forward for those seeking protection. The CBP-1 app, once a beacon of hope for those navigating the complex asylum process, has been rendered effectively useless. Migrants who had diligently scheduled appointments through the CBP-1 app, often waiting for months or even years, now find their hopes dashed. The executive order provides no clear guidance on how these individuals can proceed, leaving them stranded in legal limbo. By effectively eliminating access to asylum, the Trump administration is signaling a retreat from the United States' long-standing commitment to providing refuge to those fleeing persecution. This move has drawn condemnation from human rights groups worldwide and raises serious concerns about the future of asylum in the United States. The Trump administration justifies the border shutdown as an essential measure to combat what it calls an invasion at the southern border. Citing record numbers of apprehensions and strained resources in border states, the administration argues that drastic action is necessary to protect national security and regain control of the situation. They point to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which guarantees states protection from invasion as legal justification for their actions. Critics, however, argue that the administration's use of the term invasion is inflammatory and misleading. They point out that the vast majority of those arriving at the border are desperate families seeking a better life, not a threat to national security. Moreover, they argue that the administration's focus on border enforcement ignores the root causes of migration, such as poverty, violence, and climate change, which continue to displace people across the globe. The administration's decision to invoke the Constitution's guarantee clause has also drawn scrutiny. Legal experts debate whether the clause, traditionally applied to foreign military incursions, can be legitimately used to justify closing the border to asylum seekers. The border shutdown has sparked outrage from human rights organizations, legal experts, and faith leaders. They argue the policy is cruel, inhumane, and violates U.S. and international law. The ACLU has filed lawsuits claiming it breaches the Refugee Act and international treaties. Critics say it denies due process to asylum seekers. Turning away individuals eliminates their legal right to seek asylum. Opponents highlight the devastating human cost. Stranding asylum seekers in dangerous towns puts lives at risk. Reports of violence and kidnapping have surged. The legal battle will be protracted and contentious. The outcome will impact immigration policy and the U.S. international standing. Human faces, human costs. The migrant crisis deepens. The human cost of the border shutdown is becoming increasingly apparent as thousands of migrants find themselves stranded in precarious and often dangerous conditions. Border towns, already struggling to cope with the influx of arrivals, are now bursting at the seams, their resources stretched to the breaking point. Makeshift camps, lacking adequate sanitation and basic necessities, have sprung up, posing significant health risks. Among those most affected are families with young children, who are particularly vulnerable to the harsh conditions. The lack of access to clean water, food, and medical care has raised concerns about the spread of disease and malnutrition, particularly among children. The psychological toll of uncertainty and prolonged displacement is also taking its toll as families grapple with the fear and anxiety of not knowing what the future holds. The human stories emerging from the border are a stark reminder of the real-world consequences of policy decisions made in Washington. Their plight underscores the urgent need for humane and compassionate solutions to the complex challenges of migration. Economic shockwaves, trade disruptions, and uncertain futures. Beyond the humanitarian crisis, the border shutdown has sent shockwaves through the interconnected economies of the United States and Mexico. The $1.7 billion in daily trade that flowed freely across the border has slowed to a trickle, disrupting supply chains, impacting businesses, and fueling uncertainty in financial markets. The shutdown's ripple effects are being felt across multiple sectors, jeopardizing jobs and threatening economic stability. The automotive industry, heavily reliant on cross-border supply chains, is among the hardest hit. Factories on both sides of the border are facing production delays and shutdowns as components fail to arrive on time. The agricultural sector is also grappling with significant disruptions. Perishable goods are rotting at border crossings while farmers face mounting losses as they struggle to get their products to market. The retail industry, heavily dependent on Mexican manufacturing, is bracing for shortages and price hikes. The shutdown's disruption of this delicate balance highlights the high stakes involved and the potential for long-term economic damage if a swift resolution is not found. Political battleground: a nation divided on immigration. The border shutdown has reignited the perennial debate over immigration in the United States, further deepening the political divide that has come to characterize the nation's politics. Republicans, largely supportive of the shutdown, argue that it's a necessary step to regain control of the border and uphold the rule of law. They frame the situation as a matter of national security and sovereignty, accusing Democrats of being soft on illegal immigration and jeopardizing public safety. Democrats, on the other hand, have condemned the shutdown as cruel, inhumane, and a betrayal of American values. They accuse the Trump administration of using the border crisis for political gain, exploiting fears and prejudices to advance a xenophobic agenda. This partisan battle is playing out not only in the halls of Congress, but also in the court of public opinion. Conservative media outlets have largely echoed the administration's rhetoric, portraying the situation at the border as an invasion and justifying the shutdown as a necessary response. The border shutdown has become a potent symbol of the deep ideological divisions that plague American politics. Diplomatic fallout, strained relations with Mexico. The border shutdown has sent ripples of discontent through the U.S. Mexico relationship, straining ties between the two neighboring countries. Mexico, already grappling with the influx of migrants on its northern border, has vehemently opposed the shutdown, warning of dire humanitarian consequences and voicing its displeasure through diplomatic channels. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has publicly criticized the shutdown, calling it a unilateral and inhumane measure. He has urged the United States to reconsider its approach, emphasizing the need for dialogue and collaboration to address the shared challenges of migration. The Mexican government has also warned of potential economic retaliation, hinting at reviewing its cooperation on trade and security issues if the shutdown persists. The diplomatic fallout from the border shutdown highlights the interconnectedness of the U.S. Mexico relationship. The shutdown's strain on this relationship could have far-reaching implications, hindering cooperation on critical issues and undermining regional stability. An uncertain future. Navigating the legal and political maze. The border shutdown's future is uncertain, entangled in legal challenges and political maneuvering. Lawsuits will likely determine its fate, setting a precedent for immigration policy. The legal battle is expected to be lengthy, with appeals delaying resolution. The political battle over immigration continues, further entrenching divisions. The shutdown impacts migrants, the economy, and U.S. Mexico relations. A nuanced approach is needed to balance security and moral obligations.